everybody, and welcome to another episode of Super Pros Bros. I'm player one on the left, and with me
is player 2 on the right. I'm Eli, by the way. Hello.
yeah, I'm Isaac. I realized I forgot, I forgot to say my name too. How's it going, my bro tender?
I don't have a good bro one lined up. Shit. I need to just
Boom!
write, like, a
Got
card
him.
of these. It's going pretty good, Brosephine.
Josephine.
You're a girl now. Deal with it.
Okay, that's gonna age well. Uh,
Shut up, man. You put me on the spot. Alright, what
didn't
Can't just come swinging with bro puns in the morning. I'm not ready for this shit.
Speaking of things that you're not ready for, how do you feel about the showing of damage, wear and tear, or fatigue in fiction?
I feel, unless you have good reason to ignore it, it's necessary.
What are some good reasons to ignore it?
A couple of the fun reasons to ignore it is, like, if you want to make someone awesome, like, so if you've got, Giga Big Bad, who is supposed to seem invincible, and you can't just out-brute him, you can't out-muscle him, so you can just make him seem impossible to fatigue. That's one reason. Or, I hate using this as an example, but someone like Superman, who's supposed to just be super extra, that's kind of one of those. When you start approaching, like, godlike characters, okay, well, maybe he's not supposed to fatigue. He's basically God. Okay, sure. Dr. Manhattan doesn't give a shit. He's not tired. He can just keep going. He's fucking Dr. Manhattan. Sure.
Yeah.
But, like, if you want to at all pretend you have a human character, humans get tired. If you punch a human in the face, it hurts. It bruises. It breaks the skin. It's something.
Well, not only, like, to be human, right? I mean, just to be, like, a character that we as an audience can relate to. They need to share characteristics with us, even if they aren't, in fact, human, right?
Sure. Like, I mean, if nothing else, you've got to assume that, like, things exhaust. Like, so, one of the things that I'm a big fan of superheroes and most things in that genre. And I hate when things are written like there's no cost to doing something super. Like, I hate when there's no metabolic demand, if that makes sense. Like, if you're running at the speed of a car, that would burn so many calories. Like, if you look at Usain Bolt after he sprints the 100 meters, what is the first thing that guy does? He fucking, like, fell over. Like, that's Usain Bolt.
Takes a breather.
Yeah, the dude is the fastest man alive, and when he goes balls to the walls, leaves nothing out there, like, he fucking collapses because he's exhausted. Like, doing stuff that is superhuman, quote unquote, should have cost. And being in a fist fight, having been in several, shit's exhausting.
Yeah.
You can't do it forever. You can't do it for like 5 minutes without being tired.
So what are some good examples for you of good show of wear and tear or bad show of wear and tear? Do you have any queued up?
Right. I have a really terrible one. Let's lead with the worst.
All right. Leading with the worst?
And mild spoilies for anybody who is not current on My Hero Academia. This is a little bit old, but towards the newer end of things. Alright, spoiler warning given. They do an arc. They talk about villains. And the villain, like, they become the kind of focal point of the story. And the villains are being chased by this giant fuckwit who basically will chase them for 10 hours, or like 15 hours straight, and then sleep for 3, and then get back up and continue chasing them. And he's been supposedly doing it for weeks. So you have a bunch of kids who are sleep-deprived, haggard, exhausted. They've been effectively fugitives in the woods for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically get blackmailed into going and picking a fight. And they are at top fucking form.
As you would be, you know.
Yeah, like, and so they're getting extra powers because they're on death's door, but they're also running super fast, and none of them have super speed as like part of their power by default.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like sprinting faster than the eye can see. They're making really good decisions. They're formulating plans at the drop of a hat. I'm like, fuck you, no, you're tired. You don't think straight when you're tired. You do dumb shit when you're tired. Like. They've got one dude walking around drunkenly, but the second he needs to do it, he's sprinting like a fucking cheetah. No, incorrect. Wildly incorrect.
Especially for a show that, like, this is, I think, one of those things where you kind of, like, you made your bed, now you gotta kind of lie in it sort of thing. Or, you know, you set up a paradigm and now you have to, like, kind of continue to fulfill it. Is that show started off very much with, while people have powers, very much this practical, thought out, like, strategy matters, intelligence matters, there are consequences.
Yeah.
Like, for multiple, as much as I would have preferred to have been longer, I think for being a shonen show that's meant for kids, they did show somebody being injured relatively well, while still, like, kind of delivering the hits, so to speak.
Yeah, like they honestly did for quite a while, and like you kind of take it with a grain of salt, right? And like people are getting hit really hard in the face, like going through walls and still fighting, and I'm like, it's a kids show. We're gonna roll with this. We're just gonna take it on the nose. We're not gonna object too hard. But like at a certain point, I can only give you so much credit, and sleep deprivation does not give you superpowers. Talk to any parent of a newborn. I'm all for the on death's door buff. You know, that last surge of adrenaline. I'm game, happy. Sleep deprivation is not that. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Good example.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just say, I was just gonna throw out a good example that I read not too long ago that leaps to mind. I guess another kind of bad example, personally, I think is Rocky. I think that's stupid.
Although, based off a person, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
There's a guy whose nickname, I just want to say this just because his nickname was, like, the Bleeder. And it wasn't because he made other people bleed. It's because he bled. Yeah, he was basically just a fighter that was willing to take on anybody for the right amount of money.
Oh my god.
And, like, he took on the fight partially because it was money, and then after getting the fight was like, fuck you. Because, like, I think he got, like, talked shit about and he was just kind of over it. And so, not that he ever went down cheap or easy, but, like, he fucking really brought whatever game he had to that fight. Because it was based on a real fight that actually happened between...
Okay.
I'm going to have to do some Googling.
I don't know. There's just something about Rock that's always sat kind of wrong with me. And maybe it's just because of the weird back and forth that it keeps doing.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because Sylvester Stallone is ridiculous. But
So the actual person that Rocky's based on is Chuck Wepner. His nickname was the Bayonne Bleeder. Solid nickname.
10 out of 10.
So he fought Muhammad Ali in 1975 and came second short of going all 15 rounds.
God damn. All right.
Yeah, against, like, the best ever.
Yeah,
And, like, it was
arguably
just like, yeah,
the GOAT of boxing, for sure.
yeah. It's just like, yeah. So, like,
Right.
it's based on a really cool event.
Man,
That
he
being
takes
said,
punishment.
yeah, obviously, yeah. The movie, it does have, like, way too many ridiculous amounts of, like, punch in the face. Oh, I'll just get back up. It's like, no, you won't.
There's like too many where he's just eating it to the, like, he's, and I think part of it is just like because I've done a fair amount of, like, standing in a ring, but, like, he's eating with his chin up, and I'm like, nah, that's how you go unconscious. Like,
Yeah, that's how you get free airfare to your back.
yeah, it is. That's how you take a nap. Like, If anyone plans on getting in a fist fight, duck your damn chin.
So what are some of the, you said that was another bad one. What were some of the good ones that you liked? The show of like Wear Tear?
Um, so good example that I really enjoyed was when I was reading um the first Law trilogy. There's the author does a pretty good job of keeping like injury relevant and fatigue relevant.
Who's the author?
Joel Abercrombie. I might be wrong on the first name. Joe Abercrombie
And Fitch.
um, so like one of the main points in the first book is that one character he's prepping for this duel, right? It's this big fucking show, and he goes into the ring against this absolute, and so he's playing kind of traditional fencing because it's to touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes in against this dude named Berman Gorst, who is this fucking giant, like, dude from a farm, basically. He's this absolute brute. And Berman Gorst decides to abuse his size, and instead of taking, like, standard quick fencing steels, he just has, like, basically broadswords. And so he's just bludgeoning the shit out of Luthar, who, trying to use traditional fencing steels to effectively block a broadsword, he's just exhausted so fast. Which I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
That is what would happen. Because he's just getting bodied because he's giving up 100 pounds to this fucking Goliath of a human being.
Also giving up like blade textures because you can't like full block.
No.
With a fencing thing, you'll just snap it versus a broadsword. It's not going to hold up.
Yeah, he's just, and so everyone's like, wow, he's just using these giant giant fencing steels. What the fuck? And they're like, well, he's not technically cheating. He's just being really smart about it.
Yeah. Just saw that his brawn was way better than this guy's and was like, whoa, gee.
Yeah, and so like everyone was talking shit about Berman Gorst, and it's like, yeah, but it is working. And so, and you know, Jazal was talking so much smack before he went in. He's like, how the fuck do I fight this? Like, because all he's done planning is to fight people using regular fencing steels.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, speed gets you everything, but it's like, all this dude has to do is just swing at me and keep advancing, and I can't go backwards faster than he can go forwards.
Yeah.
So I have to block. Except this hurts me way more than it hurts him, and my hands can't hold the damn swords for long. And like, he finally gets hit, and like, it breaks several ribs, because, well, it's like a blunted broadsword. It's heavy, so you just get hit with like an 8-pound chunk of steel.
Dong!
There's, I'll actually come back to this story for in a bit. You'll see why.
Right.
Do you have any good examples of good or bad fatigue that drive you kind of nuts?
So, for what it was, I think the first couple seasons of My Hero Academia had really good showings of like fatigue when it came to like post-fight kind of wear and tear. There was characters that like got like laid up, and the main character, part of his power initially is hurting himself, so he like kind of takes an episode off. I really wish it was longer, but it's a kid's show, so I totally get it.
They do also have a medic, to be sure, who like they have a character who's a plot device to just heal broken bones faster. So it's like, okay, there's at least some kind of cause for why your skeleton is mending overnight.
Yeah. Another that was good that I saw and like read about recently was the movie Atomic Blonde. And one of the things.
Sorry, I love. There's like a 5-minute fight in that movie. I kind of forgotten. So good. I love that. That scene is so good. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's great. I think that's a great telling of like how good the movie is. It's like, you know, that's the kind of response you get. But another thing that movie did, other than wow, my co-pilot here, is it really did a great job at showing damage on a beautiful woman is almost never done long lasting unless like the male character can save her. But you know, the main character's female, she's the badass. And so, but instead of having it be that the damage goes away quickly, it's that the damage stays for like the entirety of the film, basically. Anytime a bruise happens, they did a very good job at making sure that it was constantly in every single scene. They didn't like forget about it. It was basically, the kind of the weight you carry.
And
And
there's
it was,
there is one scene where it's not visible, and it's because she puts on a lot of makeup,
yeah.
which makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Concealer. Ah.
Anybody? But I thought that was one really genius, very, a positive step forward when it comes to showing women being badasses and people just being badasses in general, especially women, is kind of showing that it's kind of taking away from that whole long lasting stereotype of one of the biggest valuable parts of a woman is being beautiful. And so, like, the idea of ever showing long damage, unless they were damsel in distress, is like never something that is really shown in cinema. But so to have this kind of retake that opportunity and show that it can be is like really great. But also just for like realism's sake, being like, yeah,
Bruises.
you got the shit beat out of you. You got to fight against four other guys. You got hurt a bit. It's gonna stick around a while, and like having that kind of be a thing. I don't know. I really appreciated that.
I've also got to say, because it does a good job in that. So that fight in the hotel, where it's like her versus four dudes that kind of conga line in stupidly, but whatever. Did a really good job where initially it's very crisp because, well, she's fucking trained. And then it gets sloppy quick, which is exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
Like, you're throwing crisp punches for about 2 minutes. After that, it's just fucking do what you can. Like, smash the dude's head in the wall. Check. Throw the lamps. Fuck it. Hit him with the chair. Who cares? Like,
object smash.
yeah, exactly. Like, shit gets... Don't get me wrong, I love good choreography. Like, really good fight choreography is just beautiful to watch. Like, I love the raid. Iko Uwais is a fucking magician, right? But I also appreciate the authenticity that Atomic Blonde had in that scene, because that is...
Yeah.
Perfect. That's exactly what just... We're hurt, we're tired, but I still need you to hit the fucking floor first, so I'm gonna keep swinging.
Yeah. Trying to think of ones that are really bad. I obviously, like... A lot of action movies are, but some of it is, you came here to see the show. So, like, I kind of get it. Another one that actually did a pretty good job at going above and beyond that actually makes sense is Cranked. As much as it is a hokey piece of shit that I absolutely love. It has a
so
reason why the
ridiculous.
character is always at 100. And one, he has to, otherwise he'll die. And two, he just keeps effectively taking uppers, whether it's pills... coke or the occasional strap self to car battery.
Because,
And like,
why not? That works.
Yeah, totally works, obviously. Like, there's so many things in both of those films that are absurd, but like, yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah.
But it's also simultaneously it makes sense because it's like, look, these are the laws, he's allowed to do this.
Yeah,
This won't kill
it's
him.
got internal consistency.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you want to look for ones that, like, basically, I love them. We've both watched anime since quite a long time, but there's countless anime is just built on the kind of idea
I
of
can
just
take
like,
I can take a million hits.
yeah, I can
Hey,
go above and beyond.
my-
It doesn't matter how many times I've gone above and beyond before.
My name is Natsu from Fairy Tail, and I, for some reason, am immune to being hit unconscious.
Or my name is Naruto from Naruto, and my
Yeah,
superpower like,
And
pick
I have
character with
maximum
weird
plot
hair.
armor.
Yeah, exactly. With parents that just don't exist for some reason, with weird hair. Main character, this guy ain't going down ever. Doesn't matter how many times you hit him,
Also,
not going down.
I love Guts, but there's some fights where I'm like, motherfucker, you should lose. Like,
Yeah, true.
I mean,
But I mean, like,
later
once
you
he
can kinda
once he
write it
gets his
off.
once
he
he
gets
gets
the
his
armor, yep.
armor, yeah. And I like some of those is also most of the fights aren't long term. He does lose a fight early versus
he does. There's just some where I'm
Zod.
like,
There are some before he gets the armor that are questionable, to be sure.
yeah,
But like he's not doing them back to back to back to back. And
No,
one of the
it's
ones
true.
he does after, I think it's the third or fourth arc after he fights the the really difficult to ever put in a TV show character of like
Ah, yes, that
a
weird
17-year-old
hummingbird.
naked moth girl. Oh,
She's like a hummingbird, basically.
she's a moth.
She's a moth? She's like a
Yeah,
hummingbird.
she has huge wings.
All right. Anyway,
Um,
super speed moth.
yeah. She after that fight concludes and he leaves, he runs into like the knights of whatever, and he loses the fight like pretty quickly. Like it's just like these are people he would normally beat, like the Onion Knight or whatever his name is. He's not the
Yeah.
Onion Knight, right? Because that's from Game of Thrones, but he's the whatever knight who has like the stick and the mustache that sticks outside of his
Yeah.
helm. He just like loses to him. It's like, yeah, that's not a fight he's going to lose under normal circumstances. So that is, I think, a situation where they show wear and tear. But I do agree that it's like his character is ridiculous, but also at the same time, there's literal infinite montages in the show of watching him just train when everybody else is doing anything else. It's like this
Yeah.
guy wanted to be perfect.
He
And it's
is a
like-
human weapon, basically.
Yeah, like he literally at one point his goal is to become a weapon for his best friend
Yeah.
until he realizes that that's like not what he wants anymore.
Until he
like,
realizes he wants to be more than just a big sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the guy literally, that one is, while absurd, I think is earned enough. Obviously
Yeah,
there are
it is-
situations where it goes above and beyond,
It's
but
it's
it's not.
more earned than most, for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't go. The fights go long, like when you look at them on paper. But I think if you looked at them in like actual runtime, if you were like there and it was a real event, like we're talking like half an hour or something like that, which is insanely long. But like if your life is being able to do this, like if we're going to look past the fact that he's swinging like a 7-foot long piece of steel,
He's swinging
one-handed, and just
swinging
like
a 90-pound
going it
hunk of
through.
iron.
Yeah, just going through infinite people. It's like,
I mean, at a
sure,
certain point,
fuck
it
it.
doesn't need to be sharp. You just need to have enough speed.
Yeah, enough speed just doesn't matter. Everybody's cheese.
Chunky mustard.
But I think that one is like kind of playing with the middle line.
Yeah. And, I mean, hey, if you always go over, we can just bail you out with a good Deus Ex, right?
This is true.
This is true. And, I'm going to use we've come to the agreement that there are terrible Deus Exes versus some good Deus Ex usage.
Yeah, we have 3 categories, right? We have the genre allows it.
Yeah.
We have well done, and we have what the fuck.
Yeah.
So what would you like to start off with
So-
first?
I'll add one that we didn't initially talk about because I started talking about that duel between Jazal and Gorst, where Jazal's getting his ass whooped. Because turns out broadswords beat fencing steels.
No way.
No way. So in the audience, because it bounces perspectives between 2 guys watching in the crowd,
Yeah.
and one of them is a mage who bets on Jazal. So he makes him win by basically buffing him. Which is so cheatsy.
But I mean, it follows the rule of the universe.
Yep.
And it's also something you're being shown or
Yeah.
talked about, right? So
Well, the funny thing is, initially you don't know that the Magus Bias is doing it, and so Jazal's just suddenly like, I fucking feel wonderful, and just starts rallying like a motherfucker, and then it pans back to the crowd, and Logan is like, say one thing about the first of the Magi, he's a fucking cheater.
So for me, that kind of fits in our first list of like well done.
Yeah, I think it's a very good example of a very good Deus Ex. Like, it's got good rationale. It's got a clear like, oh, we can do this. Okay, that makes sense. Like, you don't feel cheated. It doesn't feel cheap. It's a little kind of cheaty, but that's sort of the point. It's kind of like
Yeah. All right. So before we get too far into it, Deus Ex Machina, for those of you that don't know, is an unexpected power or an event saving a seamlessly hopeless situation, especially at a contrived plot device in a play or novel. If that wasn't clear from the circumstance. So what's your other good ad for the well done category?
The good ad, I think, comes from the fucking classic anime movie Ghost in the Shell. From it's on like 1995.
Yeah, right around there. It's like 90s.
Yeah, still holds up, still good. God bless the art style. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
main
See the
character-
original, don't watch the remake.
Don't, yeah. Love you, ScarJo. No. Um, Major Kusanagi decides to go do her whole lone wolf bit against the advice of her partner, and decides to basically go 1v1 a tank. She's a cyborg. She's not totally crazy, but when her
I think
gun...
to be fair for her character, I don't think she knows there's going to be a tank there. I think she knows that she's like going to try
she's
to
like
do
knowingly
X.
walking into a trap.
She knows she's walking into a trap, but I don't think she knows this was a tank.
It's true. She doesn't know there's going to be a literal spider tank waiting for her, but she knows she's walking into a trap, and it's still stupid for her to do it alone. Anyways, so she like calls her partner, who says, "What are you doing? Don't do it." And she's like, "I'm out." Runs in, spider tank. Her gun does nothing. She tries to tear open the tank, which is a baller scene.
Great physical showing of a metaphor.
Yeah, and so she like turns off her pain receptors and then tries to rip open the tank again and rips her arms off in the process.
Cyborgs.
Cyborgs are dope. And so as all hope is lost because she doesn't have arms, her partner shows up with basically a railgun and just puts holes in the tank.
Yeah, just drops it.
Yeah, it's like he puts like these human-sized craters in it. It's so awesome. And reason being is they're cyborgs, they're robots, they're chipped. He can track her, and he knows she's doing something irrevocably stupid, so he goes to save his partner. Like, it's very.
This
clear
is not
reason.
something else. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is also something not we're not conflating. This has like been literally talked about in the show.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, they're partners. They've been partners forever. There's a clear bond. He's going to want to help his friend, and he knows she's doing something stupid. So it makes sense for him to fucking run to help her and stop her from killing herself, effectively.
But the thing that does make this different than other situations where this does happen, where it's like, how did you find me shit like that, where it has to get kind of contrived or not explained, is that this one is they're chipped. And this has been shown and discussed previously as like an element in the universe. It's like, so it's like this has precedence, which I think is like one of the things that we kind of like are going to end up harping on, is like, if this is, oh, how serendipitous. It's like, is it though? Or is it just hacky writing? It's like, no, this one was like set up. It shows a clear relationship, that they care for each other. They have like many scenes by themselves where they talk about like deep, kind of weird, fucked up shit. They
drink on a boat
commiserate.
together.
They drink, yeah, like what else do you need to know? And it shows multiple times where people are hunted down via chip or found via chip. And so for this person to know that is very much within the realm of their possibility. So my pick on this one is Toy Story 3. Wherein, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but you kind of should have already.
Go watch it, guys. What are you doing?
Just go watch it. Yeah, come back to this moment. So in the end of Toy Story 3, when I cry every time and whimper like a schoolgirl, even though I know exactly what's about to happen.
Yep.
And they're in the incinerator. Life's about to come to an end. I'm watching my childhood nearly go up in cinders.
And going,
then suddenly
how the hell do we get out of this?
Yeah, like there's no way. Seriously, they're gonna end their series like this? Like I don't see a way out, but I can't imagine this happening. What's going on?
And the fucking gut punch of they all grab hands, and Woody has to acknowledge that he can't fight his way out of it. He just has to accept it. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is a kid's movie.
I was not ready for this on Saturday at 10 a.m. And then they get saved by the little aliens. And they say a line that makes it all make sense.
The claw.
The claw. Because back in the first amazing expedition we had with these toys, they run into them at
a claw machine. Like
yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to remember the name of the arcade.
It's Pizza Planet.
Pizza Planet, there we go. At Pizza Planet, you meet these aliens in a little claw machine where they get picked up. and they're very fascinated with the claw. I think they have a couple other instances where they use the claw, or the claw is talked about over the series. But in this one, they're also not in the bin with them, so you can extrapolate from there. It's a
Yeah,
great callback.
they get
Yeah.
separated going into the garbage facility, so you
Yeah.
kind of lose sight of them.
Yeah. And wisely and correctly, you're, being pulled in by all this emotional weight, so you don't think. But upon, when you're able to remove yourself from that emotional moment, you can go back and like look at it like, oh yeah, no, this does track for X, Y, and Z. It's like,
And
yeah,
maybe a bit absurd, but
yeah.
talking toys. So there's
Not
that.
only not only talking toys, but I mean, having precedence, having it make sense. They would want to go like they've played with a claw before. They love it, and these are their friends. Like all of this adds up. It doesn't need to make sense in the moment because part of Deus Ex is like literally you don't see it coming. That's how like if you do see it coming, it's not really a Deus Ex as much as like a setup and a payoff, which are fine. It's just different.
Yeah,
Deus Ex,
sure.
literally part of it has to be like,
Totally out of the
wait,
blue.
what the fuck? Yeah, like you have to be caught off guard. Just like part of the reason that they exist and work. But this is a way that upon, these ones, upon second, upon a more scrupulous, second gaze, you will see that, oh yeah, like these make sense because X, Y, and Z, and you can kind of put it together. It's kind of like how we talked about when we talked about like the mystery reveals and stuff like that. There needs to be breadcrumbs of a sort so that this isn't completely out of nowhere and doesn't hold up to any like kind of logical scrutiny or anything of that sort.
For sure.
So now that we've got the good ones out of the way, what are the fun ones? Genre makes it so they don't matter.
As I say, it's more in comedies that you can kind of get away with that, where it's consequence free because, I mean, you're not if you're taking a comedy too seriously, that's just on you, dog. Your example was Shaun of the Dead, which I actually haven't seen all of. I know I'm a terrible person.
The worst. So, Shaun of the Dead in the movie, is a kind of farce on the zombie genre. They're running away from zombies. They've decided to hold up in this bar. Everything goes to tits, and they come outside thinking it's all going to be over, and they're just accepting their fate. The couple, and they're going outside to accept their fate, and then they find out the army's in town and that they're being saved. And the reason this works for one of two reasons is one of the characters that they had run into earlier had left and come back and had brought the army with them, knowing where they had gone. So part of that is breadcrumb style. Secondly, it's a comedy. Who gives a fuck? It doesn't like standing up to logical reasoning is good, but definitely not requisite. And that's I think part of the thing that matters.
You don't go to a comedy for stakes.
Yeah, not only necessarily for stakes, but for like one of the most important parts of comedy is not only surprise but absurdity.
Yeah.
So like, what's more absurd than Deus Ex Machina? It's like
Not
much. Like fart jokes. I don't know, but like that's kind of like part of the deal. So like that just like is following in trend. And the other one that we were noticing when we were planning out this episode, yes, we plan shit.
Don't tell them.
Is action movies, because part of action movies usually is suspension of disbelief, and it's also, generally speaking, depending upon which ones you're watching, a treat for the eyes and not necessarily one for the noggin.
Yeah.
In said genre, what did you pick, Eli?
So I think we agreed on with Jurassic Park with the T-Rex rolling up, saving the day.
Yeah.
So it turns out brawn does beat brain.
Extrapolate.
Sorry. Towards the end of Jurassic Park, when they're running from raptors and getting absolutely bodied because it turns out intelligent dinosaurs are a terrifying prospect. The T-Rex just sort of barrels in and bails out our survivors because he hungry. And raptors suddenly having a much bigger threat than those puny humans kind of leave them alone and piss off to fight the T-Rex and run.
Wisely. So
Wisely,
I might add.
he's got really big teeth. Just look at him. Majestic.
But like we said, like the first time I watched this, there was never a moment, and I think we've both seen this probably movie, if not just this scene, like probably half a dozen times. Every time that scene comes up, it's never like, wait, what the fuck? It's like, oh shit! Like the only response is that of excitement and just like captivate. It's just like all you're doing is being sucked into the moment.
It's
exactly.
It's this big. If you're trying to look at that too analytically, I mean, the premise of we have cloned dinosaurs in the '90s, like, all right, come on now.
There's a lot of plot holes to be danced around to get to that point and be furious about only that.
Yeah, but let's enjoy watching dinosaurs fight. We want them to fight. Godzilla has taught me nothing. I want to see big things fight. I need it.
Now, if you want to get angry about something, we can go to our latter category.
Where things feel fucking cheap.
You want to start it off, or should I?
I'm going to start one off, because Harry Potter, you got some splating to do. Now, to be fair, this is kind of mitigated by the Dumbledore sees all kind of complex, although why Dumbledore sees all and lets school kids, like, nearly kill themselves regularly could be debated. Anyway.
Jesus allegory.
That actually makes a surprising amount of sense. But anyway, the events of the chamber, actually in the end of Chamber of Secrets, which if you haven't read a book that came out 20 years ago, that's just on you, or somehow not seen a movie. Fox rolls in, brings the Sorting Hat. The Sorting Hat can conjure the sword.
Which I don't think we knew.
We had no idea that it could conjure the sword. And the fact that one of the basilisk fangs gets ripped out of the basilisk's mouth when it bites Harry. So when he stabs the book, it incidentally has basilisk venom, for which there is effectively no cure, which is why it can destroy the actual diary.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here that was not well planned, because it turns out fucking 13-year-olds don't plan to raid the dungeon very well. The forethought was not there. The only part of it that is kind of acceptable is that the fucking Phoenix cries on Harry to heal the basilisk venom, because they do mention that Phoenix tears are basically healing potions, which, fine, we can let that one go. The rest of this shit, however, also, the fact that Harry knows how to use a goddamn sword.
I mean, that one's like, for me, is like right behind the. It's a sword. It's like it's like you're being surprised at somebody knowing how to use a gun.
Yes.
Stick them with a pointy end. I don't know.
Sure. He's fighting a 30-foot snake.
Yeah, but sharp thing goes slishy slash. I don't know.
Like, he doesn't, like, cut. He stabs it through the mouth. Like, I don't know. Just cut its head off. Something. Like, I think it makes more sense. Yeah. Also, the fact he uses, like, the sword and doesn't have a spell prepped for it or something. I don't know. They know they're going down to fight a snake. Why don't they look up some anti-snake spells? There are literally anti-arachnid spells they learn in that book. Why not some fucking anti-reptile spells? Come on!
There's a myriad of problems with that sequence. I think the only saving grace is that kid's book, but still, that's not enough. I remember kind of reading it as a kid and going, all right. And then just like moving on because
that happened.
Yeah, that happened, and then moving on because kid's book, and I was kid, but it definitely still at that time I was like, huh, weird.
Yeah, it's probably the worst. I like it less as a climax than I like the third one, and the third one has time travel in it, and I don't usually like time travel. So,
like not at all.
Like almost never.
See episode 4 of Passion People and Philosopher's Peace.
You can hear me go on at length. I won't have it. You want to hit him with our our other undignified award?
Yeah, I guess I'll go with the movie out here, as that is my forte. In The Wizard of Oz, there are a couple that stand out as one of which being Glinda the Good Witch showing up out of nowhere for no seemingly particular reason and taking care of, waking them up from the sleeping potion. Just, to counteract what the bad witch is doing. Or the wicked witch, just like, yeah, because I'm the good witch, she's the wicked witch. Which, grown eye roll, but whatever. The one at the end is still the biggest, like, fuck you to everybody. Of, oh yeah, if you just want to get home, just clap these nifty shoes together that you got 2 hours ago. It's like, why the fuck did you wait that long? Like, what? There's no pretense, reason, nothing. It's just a big middle finger to everybody involved.
Yeah, not good. Yeah.
But the one we're saving for last, I dare say, a skosh more WTF.
It's a little...
Because at least in Wizard of Oz, it's a movie made in the 20s. Chamber of Secrets, it's like, it was her second book. It's a kid's book. But...
JRR. What's your fascination with eagles, buddy?
Why you gotta have eagles solving all them problems?
You need to get off a volcano? Eagles. You need to get off of this tower? Eagles.
And you get out of this tree where orcs are trying to eat you?
Eagles. Every kind of crisis of movement, eagles.
Yeah. Except getting to Mount Doom.
Yeah.
That can't be done by eagles.
Now, there is actually a rationale for that one. Believe it or not. And it's that the eagles can also be tempted by the ring. So they distance themselves from it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that is the reason they don't take Frodo ever to Mount Doom. Every other time is just kind of a deus ex, though.
Yeah.
But there's...
Like, Gandalf's boys with eagles, and yet they have to walk all the way to, in the original Hobbit. It's like, couldn't you just get eagles? Like, it can't be that hard for them to transport, what is it, 7 dwarf, or how many dwarf, is 11?
I want to say like 9.
I don't remember.
You're
probably right. X number of dwarves, a wizard, and a hobbit. It's like, couldn't you hook a brother up? Like, come on, Gandalf, what the fuck?
Bro, have you seen those things? They're huge.
Yeah. Anyway, with that outburst, I think we're going to throw it to our commercial break. And we'll be right back after that.
Do you wish that you could engage in reckless acts of wanton violence? Do you wish that you had the confidence and constitution of a Navy SEAL? Do you wish that criminal liability was wildly subjective? If any of those ring true, action movies might just be for you. With plenty of morally questionable motives and plots that sacrifice substance for style and explosions, action movies appeal to those basal urges that make us want to make things go boom. So what are you waiting for, killer? The day isn't going to save itself.
Alright, we are back, and before we go too far down this next rabbit hole of what we've been working on and thinking about, realized after editing last week that you didn't get to, go on a lengthy diatribe about what your reason for writing was.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. For me, I guess a big part of the reason is I usually have something churning in my head. Like there's usually some kind of weird story that just kind of keeps nagging at me. And oftentimes I look like a crazy person because I'll walk around my apartment and just talk it out to myself. it looks bad when I do that in public because I'm pretty sure people have looked at me and assumed I had schizophrenia. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that guy should be back on his meds. Get that man some tramadol. That's not schizophrenia medication. And part of it too is that like I've grown up around loud people. No one, present company excluded, of course. And I got used to being very, very quiet. I got used to being kind of not necessarily feeling trapped in books, but like it was writing became a way of having a voice that I wasn't used to having. And Jesus, I apparently I discovered that I wanted to be writing books when I was fucking young. Actually, it was like 3rd grade, and I wanted to be making epic fantasy. It didn't work well because I was in 3rd grade, but like I found recently, found like an old thing I did, like an old school project that our mom saved for some inane reason. I was like, wow, this is my first attempt at writing fantasy, like in 3rd grade. Good Lord, I've known I wanted to do this for a while, I guess. I was always that quiet kid. And so writing became my way to talk.
Do you think, is this kind of one of those, like, delve into a psychology thing? Where do you think that goes, like, what's the difference between coping mechanism and, you know, having a positive kind of...
Context. Context.
Okay.
So what I mean, so...
Because this could, like, the way you're talking about this, correct me if I'm wrong, could be, you know, there are good reactions to things, like turning something positive, but there's also, like, people will use certain
Avoidance.
kind of tactics to you know, avoid or hide and stuff like that. How does that differ from this?
So everything. So the thing to remember about everything in psychology is that it is entirely dependent on context. I mean, God, this matters in life too. I have been in fistfights. I have been in a fist fight where I cracked a rib and got my jaw dislocated. Was that a traumatic event for me? No, it was my black belt test. I look back on that fondly and kind of wince a bit when I look at some of the pictures. Now, if that just happened to someone in the street and they got jumped, that's cause for PTSD because they got beaten half to death. It's all about context. And so if you are using writing, like if I was using writing as a way to avoid ever having to talk to anyone, like, and it became an obsession, it became my only way to communicate with people, or my only way to feel heard, and so it became like an addiction, well, that's a problem. That's a dependency. That's avoidance. That's avoiding trying to find a voice that I can project outwards, and instead becoming reliant on a new mechanism. I think many things that become coping mechanisms, often you don't realize they're coping mechanisms. If you can identify it, point it, say, this is X, and identify it, it removes a lot of the potential for disastrous kind of addiction or dependency on. It removes that kind of unconscious bias towards it, I think.
Awesome. I didn't know that's where that came from. That's really cool to hear. And it's really beautiful to see that you're able to, out of like a kind of, I don't want to say bad circumstance, but definitely not the best of circumstances, you're able to take something and then find ways to use it for good as opposed to just move past it. You know, you're able to take this thing that you excelled at, that you found joy and kind of comfort in, that was comforting you in a time where you know, were dealing with difficulties, and continue to use it after those difficulties had subsided.
Yeah.
So what have you been writing on, thinking about as of recently?
Oh, I've been writing on something and thinking on something that I told myself I wasn't going to do. And unfortunately, I think I'm like, oh shit, this might work.
All right, you've got a couple minutes on the timer. Pitch me
All right,
said.
so I've been thinking about a sequel to my web serial, even though I kind of liked how I ended it, because I think I can actually write a convincing part to the end of it, and show the kind of aftermath of what happens when there aren't galactic tyrants ruling over everything, and what happens to that power vacuum.
Okay. So far, not exactly pitched, but hit me.
All right, so the idea at the end of Trillidan Exiles is the Trillidan are no longer the kind of galactic overlords. They no longer exist to oppress the acceleration of technology. They no longer fill that role of suppressing innovation and tremendous space travel and colonization. So without them there, technology is allowed to explode. And since the adapted still exist, which are my version of superheroes / supervillains, they would recognize that they have an unfair advantage that they have to use in their lifetime. And they would also realize how much damage you can do if you can be able to make said tools. And so maybe being jaded and seeing the damage damage that they could cause, they can be the next Trillidan to ensure that no one else can be. They make and they superimpose that arms race. It's like, what happens if fear governs when there's a power vacuum? They want to fill it because they're afraid of any other possible outcome because it's unsure.
Awesome.
I know. I hate it. I told myself I wasn't going to go back to it. But I'm like,
Just when I got out, they brought me back in.
I was like, damn it, this works. No.
That's cool, man. Can't wait to read it when you start working on the second series. And if said viewers of show wanted to read what came before,
even the off chance you wanted to read the predecessor, Trillidan Exiles, you can go to trillidanexiles.com or just Trillidan, Trillodan, Exiles, spelled like you would assume it's spelled. It's a good amount of content there if you want to enjoy it. I hope you do. It gets better as it goes. The first arc is a little rocky. Mea culpa. I didn't know what I was doing.
But you do now. It's all a learning experience.
I do now. It's way better now. But what about you? What have you been working on there, Brosephine?
I've been trying to slowly plot away at Vampire Barbets. But the other day I found myself kind of being reclaimed by this alt take that I remember hearing loosely about. I don't know if it's fanfic or if it was like a fan theory, but I remember hearing about this alternative take on Peter Pan where Peter is the villain.
Huh.
And I've kind of been running with that, and like there is some loose interpretive kind of vantage points where you can see Peter being ostensibly villainous. I think they even did that in like as it's called Once Upon a Time. Is that what it's called? The TV show where
that is the show is called. I've never watched it, but I've heard pretty good
I
things about it.
watched like a little bit of season 1, but apparently in season 2 I think he's involved. Anyway, the kind of take I was looking at doing via these other ideas that I'd heard was Peter Pan is basically a kind of like a mob boss of sorts, sort of. Not like mob in the traditional sense, but like the Lost Boys are kind of like his gang. They go around, they have what he considers to be fun adventures. But
reality is
one
like
of
vandalism.
It's more that. So the story takes place in Neverland, fighting against pirates, mucking about with the natives and other critters.
Yeah.
But instead of have it be a little bit more violent,
Naturally.
than like kind of like fun, just because dark approach. But also one of the rules I guess truisms of Neverland is that you never grow old, or at least for the Lost Boys, right?
Yeah.
But what if instead of a truism, that was a law not to be broken? What if instead of, oh, you won't ever grow old here, it's
You're not allowed
you
to.
will not be allowed to grow old here.
Gotcha.
I was struck by a potential ending of episode 1 the other day where, Wendy and the two brothers Darling kind of come in, they muck about, they fight with Hook for a second. Also, fun fact, in this universe, Hook is a good guy that is misunderstood and used to be a lost boy of Peter Pan and has since made it his mission to
Save everyone else.
to save the Lost Boys effectively and kill Peter.
Huh.
After the first fight, Peter goes off with one of the Lost Boys who started to grow facial hair. And, has been, noticed. And is he's sorry about it. But Peter's like, hey, it's okay, This isn't where you belong anymore. And, it's thought to be, he's going to send him off. They have a whole entire, last dinner celebrating him. It's, seen as this sweet kind of, your time has... You've grown beyond this place. It's time for you to go home. And then you see Peter and this older boy go off, and they're sitting at the top of... trying to look up the name of the mountain in Peter Pan that's, at the top, but I couldn't come up.
Idea.
Yeah, but, goes and sits at the top of the mountain with him, and they're, sitting close. And what happens, or I think either Wendy or one of the Darling boys goes and kind of sneaks after him, or ends up walking in the night air and seeing this from a distance. And what they think they see happen is Peter hugs the boy, releases him, and then pushes him off the side of the cliff. What actually happens and is revealed in the beginning of episode 2 is what Peter does is he brings him close and stabs him in the throat, making it impossible for him to make a noise, and then pushes him off to his death. Because there are no old boys in the Lost Boys, or some such catchphrase line. But yeah, that's the kind of series. I would have it from 3 different vantage points, where you have Hook's vantage point of him trying to save the Lost Boys and fight Peter. You have Peter's vantage point of where he sees himself as the good guy, and then I think you'd have Wendy's vantage point of kind of being the detective and trying to piece this together and figure out what's going on. But yeah, it's my cobbled together sales pitch at the moment.
Damn. Gritty. I like it.
Yeah, very much kind of in the same thing we talked about a couple episodes back about Grimm, bringing the Grimm fairy tales to in an anthology series to the screen. I thought it'd be kind of cool to this one after hearing this take. It's because Peter Pan is very much, they've done a couple different versions with Hook and stuff like that, but by and large it's always Peter's the good guy, Hook's the bad guy. It's what if we just turn this on its
What
head?
if we just hit an Uno reverse card?
What if we just hit an Uno reverse card? Indeed. Well, from Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, let's just look into The Boys. So The Boys on Amazon, first 2 seasons are out. Third one is on its way later this year.
Oh Lord, he coming.
Oh, Lordy coming. What do you think of the show so far?
I enjoy
What
it.
are you looking for moving forward?
I think it's got a couple little holes here and there. A few little inconsistencies.
Actually, hold on. What do you like about it? And then we'll talk. Do you want to talk about what you like about it or what you don't like about it first?
I'll talk about what I like about it first. I like the aftermath element. I like how much it's there's a lot that shit just follows. And it's not glossed over. I loved it in the first episode. A-Train destroys Huey's girlfriend. And what happens? Someone sends to fucking settle it quietly.
Yeah.
It's not glossed over. It becomes an integral part and a catalyst for the story taking off in the first place. I like that it does that. That consequences are very real.
Yeah.
And I like how it approaches the big business corporate bullshit, and like I have the slightest glimpse of that kind of world in my job, like in my office, and I know some of kind of corporate shilling and what it looks like, and just ramp it to 11. We're the biggest conglomerate ever, yada yada yada.
It's also kind of fun with that one how it plays that off of superheroes like movie stars or influencers or what whatever popular people that are like selling stuff, and like the kind of conflating between the two and the way that's used is really cool too.
Yeah. I think a lot of the visual display is fucking great. Superheroes doing dope shit.
It's doing dope shit, but it's in a very realistic way.
Yeah.
There's no like one of the things that it's always there's like quantum things that are made fun of about superhero shows and movies in different kind of YouTube bits or whatever, where it's like guy that can punch a hole in the moon punches guy and he goes through a brick wall, and then the guy like gets back up or isn't shown again. It's like, dude, that guy's fucking dead. Yeah. Like he just got hit by a bus. Effectively, he's fucking dead. It's like in this one they show it. It's just like, yeah, when this guy hits you, parts of your body come out. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're fucking dead. Like by showing the gruesome reality, you're kind of allowed to get away with some of the fucked up jokes.
Yeah,
and it like really, I think, plays with this kind of like lens that is putting the whole superhero in our today's world genre reality. I think that like it really tracks.
Yeah. Like, I appreciate that they don't shy away from the gore, because it's like, super strength makes you lethal. Like,
yep.
Anytime you want to be. And so when you have psychopaths who are basically told they can do no wrong, well, yep. People die. Like,
yeah.
Unceremoniously. And I also like that there's just a lot of psychological toll, too. Like, I love in the start of season 2 when like Huey kind of starts to break down, like where he's just like I can't do it, and he just like sits down. He's like, I'm not getting up.
Yeah, he sits down in a exploded whale.
yeah, exactly. He's like, I can't take it anymore, man. Like I'm done. Like, he's over it. He's done. It's like, yeah, that would happen. He's been on the run. He's been living underground. He's a fucking fugitive. Like, yeah, I'd be pretty fucking over it, too. I'm in a whale. Like, I'm over this shit. I love how it doesn't shy from that. And, like, even Butcher, like, has that moment where he's like, I'm done. I can't. I've got no more fucking gas in the tank.
Yeah.
And, like, other people have to prop each other up, and it's like, that's so real, because there's so many times where people under incredible duress for incredible lengths of time, they're just like, I don't have gas in the tank, I'm fucking over it, I'm done, and you start making stupid choices that normal you'd never fucking make. And it's so good, because not many things do a good job of showing it in a way that doesn't feel fucking hokey.
Yeah, it's a great way of, so this is a two-parter response to that. One, we have a mutual friend who is a Marine, and I remember talking to him when we used to live in the same town before he ventured to the far land of Oman. And we were talking about how, in the military, how it works when you see action. And the amount of time you see action for is not that long. Because after you're in the shit, or however you want to say it, it starts to have a very realistic toll on you. So even though the military is probably not as caring as it could be, especially in like the kind of post interim where it's dealing with veterans, when they have people in the field, there is an expiration date to how long you can be out there, on like constant duty and shit like that. And like back to what we were talking about earlier with like showing fatigue. This one is doing a great job of showing that, these guys have been on the run for a long time, not making good decisions, which is like apparently one of the first things that starts to really happen. Talking to our mutual friends, like, yeah, it starts to wear on you. Like, you start making less good decisions. People will start speaking poorly. Like, they'll like forget like sentence, like structure. Yeah, like they'll start like saying things sort of out of order, apparently. And
Yeah.
so, like, that aware of, like, yeah, you start doing things that don't make sense and all this stuff. It's like, okay, that's just realistic. And it's a great way of showing fatigue and, like, being realistic. It's like, yeah, these guys are exhausted. Like, they're mentally just over it. Like, his decision to just give up there is basically, it's quasi-suicidal because they're being hunted by supers that they've committed treasonous acts against and that are going to be able to kill them with basically no punishment whatsoever because they're on the run and done illegal things.
All Homelander has to do is kind of look their direction and turn on his laser eyes, and
Whoop. Yeah. So it's like, that's a bad decision, but
Terrible.
he's so mentally drained and just over it that he's like, fuck it.
and they do a really good job getting you to that point that it doesn't feel out of place. You're like,
Yeah.
no, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
like you want him to get up, but at the same time, you're not like, what the fuck is he doing? Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, Huey, please fucking get out of the whale, please. Huey, come on, come.
All right. Now that we've gone over the great and what we love about it, what are your comments? Some of your criticisms.
You're probably gonna dislike my dislike of this.
Sure.
I feel in season 2.
Yep.
I feel like we're kind of over the spoiler warning at this point.
Yep.
The introduction of the Nazi element felt just kind of like timely.
Yeah.
I kind of hate when things sort of force that message and make it such a one-to-one where I'm like, come on. Like, it kind of works, but it felt so, like, I hate when things feel like they have a very forced political agenda like that. That there's
Sure.
like, just a clear one-to-one. That kind of drives me nuts. I'm like, just let the story be a story. Like, you don't have to make everything an allegory for real life or give everything this, like, very in-your-face, like, bad.
I think this one, the only reason I would quibble on that is because I think this one very much is just kind of doing that from the get-go. Like the way they're kind of dealing with, popularity, maintaining popularity, looking at optics, and doing that whole
Sure.
entire thing.
And, like,
this one kind of...
that
I agree that by and large it's not my favorite kind of thing, but I think this one,
I
kind of fits more than
think the
most.
Nazi one in particular is the one that bugs me. Because they have to introduce a character to make that tie-in.
Sure.
They also... Crap, I had it. I had the thought. It ran. Help, bail me out. Take the stand. Help!
I mean... I think there's some, like, occasional storylines that they picked up and dropped a little early. There's, like, a brother element in the beginning of season 2. That one kind of, I feel like, didn't quite get the runtime it should have. It didn't gather enough weight for me to care about it when it came crashing to a halt. There's just some little things like that where occasionally it kind of... There's a character that's messed with in season 2 that just, like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they just need to spend a little longer on certain things.
Sure.
But, I mean, other times they spend too long on other things. Like, the amount of time that they spend on, like, the road trip in season 2 or whatever. This is, like, the amount of time that they're on the road driving. I'm just like, I get it, but also, holy fuck, this is kind of, like, taking a while. I don't know. There's little things that they just kind of, like, added time to. I think season 1 was a little tighter. I think season 2 they tried to maybe implement one or two too many things, whereas it's like could have used a little bit more, like, ramp up or, like, kind of runtime to kind of add weight and feeling for the audience. But
Sure.
I'd say by and large it's, like, pretty strong.
It is really good. There's one thing that kind of bugged me about season 2. Did fucking Homelander's balls fall off in season 2?
How do you mean?
Like, in season 1, he don't take shit from nobody. I mean, to the
Yeah.
point that he fucking tortures the guy who kind of raised him. Granted, that dude's like a sociopathic scientist, so okay, sure. But, like, in season 2, he gets fucking talked down to by Stormfront. like right out the gate, she just kind of like, fuck you, and just like throws it in his face. And he just like takes it.
He takes it in public. He kind of, from what I remember, it's been a minute since I've seen it. He kind of like lashes out and like kind of comes at her post, like when they're not in public, because he does realize a lot of his value that he appreciates is the way he's perceived. And so like most of the time they're being interacted with, it's very much in front of a lot of other people. I feel like maybe that's not true, but that's my recollection.
It feels like he is. It feels like he's more kind of runnable. I guess like he is less. In first season, Homelander walks in a room and it's like, oh fuck, like it's threatening. And in season 2, I feel like he lost some of that weight. I guess is one of my kind of odd quibbles with it. It's like there's some things that kind of happen to a degree that sort of make sense. But
I mean, part of it is now that his mom is gone. Like his interest, his like the person he was about is like no longer existent. So maybe that has some play in it. I don't know. It'd be something interesting to go back and like watch and kind of see when that starts to happen and see if there's like a through line. Either which way. Speaking of rewatching things,
the quad canceled Futurama is possibly coming back.
I think it's definitely coming back. But like the question is with whom?
Yeah, and so for those who are not totally up to date, Hulu is going to start.
Netflix.
I thought it was Hulu.
Hold on.
I'm like 90% it's Hulu. Because I think Netflix sold the rights.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Right, Hulu.
So Hulu is going to make, I think they're slated for like 40 new episodes or something of
20.
20? Okay. Of Futurama, and I'm sure they'd do more if it fucking takes off, because who doesn't love Futurama? The caveat, however, is they don't have fucking Joe DiMaggio signed up with it.
John.
Did I say Joe?
Joe DiMaggio is a
baseball player. Sorry, John DiMaggio. The guy that looks like he just got off a fucking New York subway, not the baseball player. Has not fucking signed back up for it because he's like, I know how popular this show is. Pay me more.
You think it's that reason?
They've explicitly stated, like, John DiMaggio has been, he's been pretty upfront. He's like, I know how popular this show is. You will pay me what I'm worth.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. There's a difference between being paid what you're worth and being paid what you think you can.
I mean,
get.
that's one of those things that's kind of nebulous, right? Because it's like, how do you perceive value to a degree? And it's like, what is an okay through line? Now, to be fair, I don't know what he's asking for. Like, he hasn't published that. He's not said like, I mean, I can assume he's not like, I want $90 million. Like, I can assume he's not asking for just an absurd quantity of money.
Fact.
But there is, like, his argument, his fucking merit. Like, Futurama is a goddamn cultural phenomenon. Like, yeah, it's huge. And, I mean, if you reboot it and you're like, yeah, we have Billy West, we have John DiMaggio, we have all the OG voice casting, like, fuck yeah, I'd watch it. Heartbeat. Futurama is, like, one of my few fucking forever shows. I love that show. Like, I heard Futurama was coming back and I nearly shit my pants. I was so happy. And it's like, oh, we don't have Bender's voice? I'm like, that's a...
Yeah, it's a hard no.
That's a rough line to run. Kind of funny is I've actually seen more of this kind of thing cropping up recently. A bit of an aside. I love competitive League of Legends, and there was one of the hosts who's been doing it for years, like, actually had issue with Riot, because she's like, they're not paying me what I'm worth. And so there's a lot of kind of frustration between, like, broadcast talent and voice acting talent, and in that kind of niche, and big production companies. Because a lot of people are like, you can pay me a lot more than this, and I know you can, and you don't want to, even though I am a huge component of why this is off the ground.
Yeah.
So I have mixed feelings, because how can I mean, if you love Futurama, you fucking love Bender. If you say you don't, you're full of it. Like, you have to. So I have very mixed feelings, especially since, like, from what I've heard, voice acting is kind of a cutthroat community, and if someone gets ousted because they're not being paid enough, anyone who takes their spot is, like, kind of thumbed at.
Yep.
So
I was just reading. Mark Hamill said he won't. Like they were reaching out to him. They're like, "Oh, do you want to audition for this?" He's like, "I will not do that." He's like, "Not a chance. This is never happening."
yeah, I mean, shit. Like, so I'm really curious what happens, and I honestly hope they're willing to just renegotiate with John DiMaggio, because
Same.
like, I think Futurama could run another 5 seasons, and I would have.
What did you think of what did you think of their last season? Is this something not to change it out too much, but like I think we both want John to get reinstated and this to move forward. And
Absolutely.
if that doesn't happen, it's going to be awkward at the very least and bad at the
because
worst.
it wouldn't be like a fresh reboot.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a fresh reboot, I could go in and not make the one-to-one comparison. But if you're fucking bringing back some of the writers and Billy West, and I forget who
it's just going to be a
Leela.
continuation, which is it sounds like which was what we want.
Ah.
But what did you think of the last season? Do you think the way they're headed continuation wise is, are you going to be satiated with this, or is this just like a kind of cash grab?
I would be if they can get the OG cast, I'm totally down for them to continue it. Like, it's not super episodic, or not like super.
Yeah, it's not super story driven.
Yeah, it's just it's a wacky, gimmicky sci-fi cartoon that has really good chemistry. Like, fuck yeah, I'll take more of it. Like, it doesn't have some kind
so
of
the last couple seasons that Netflix made were acceptable as a fan.
I thought they were fine. I know some people don't. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like the kind of movie things that happened. But like, I didn't have an issue. I didn't feel like the show declined super hard in quality. I feel like maybe it had some stuff that missed. Maybe you're not getting stuff with the same emotional gut punch that you get in like season 1, season 2. But I don't want more gut punches like Jurassic Park. That episode is rough.
I mean, the ending to the last season that was on Netflix was also a pretty high note, right? Like
Yes,
it ended on
it was-
like a banger.
It was a very good way for them to cap the show.
Yep.
Now,
You don't think that's going to be problematic for them coming back, though?
no, I actually don't, because the end of it is they walk into basically a loop and they say, "Do you want to do it again?"
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it actually kind of makes sense if they go back. Like, it's not like they wrote themselves kind of an out on the off chance this happened. Probably because they'd been canceled 4 times, like just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah. So like I'm totally down with them taking the out. Like, I'm totally down with. I was down with Futurama ending where it did. I think it was a very good note to end on. I'm totally down with them just making more. If, and kind of only if, they can get the OG cast. I think if you don't have the right voices, it doesn't work. That's.
I absolutely agree. I think it's this. I feel like that's kind of the same with us for like writing, right? It's like if you get the right writers back, you continue on with the show. But it's like if you take away the people that made the show to begin with.
Yeah, I think writers are less of a gamble than like voice actors, because
No, but like I mean, it's the same kind of thing for like
yeah.
like you wouldn't if somebody's like I'm gonna write the 4th book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which we're gonna move beyond that stupid idea in the way I'm framing it. But it's like, yeah, Tolkien's not here to write it. No, you're not.
It'd be like if someone tried to write the ending of Berserk.
Just hold my pen.
And
with that,
like, I mean, but it's who's gonna fill those fucking shoes? Like,
Yeah.
it's
no, I
That's
absolutely agree.
that's a rough one. R.I.P. Kentaro Miura, you're a legend.
OG forever.
OG forever.
Well, that's our episode. Thank you for tuning in. And if you liked this video, please feel free to
Like,
comment,
share.
subscribe.
And don't forget, new episodes of Super Pros Bros come out the 1st and 3rd Saturday of every month.
Bye.